Hello everyone, welcome back for some more Let's Read of Fate Labyrinth. We're on Act 4. The last thing that we saw was that they ran into a bone dragon, a golem dragon there, and Manaka was just having the best time of her life. She's loving this. So, are we going to skip past it, implying the dragon is not worth anything, or are we going to fight it? Let's see. The girl fell. Who's the girl? One day, in the early 21st century, somewhere in the world, in the infamous 7th labyrinth of Alcatraz, which devours all who dare to enter it, the great hall in the deepest part of the 3rd floor, the imposing figure of a dragon golem guarded the stairs that led to the 4th and final floor. Indeed, it had the power you'd expect from a great foe to the heroes who protect this world. A clash of power against power, with the recreation of mythology manifest here. On one side there were 4 servants, each legends in their own right. On the other, a fake, fashioned after an axis of legend. In a sense, it was a battle between true and false, the old and the new in a struggle to the death. She hadn't fallen yet. Who's the she? The imitation dragon was powerful, roaring furiously at its core, which could be called a magical energy reactor. As its core, which could be called a magical energy reactor, ran at its full capacity. If there had only been a single heroic spirit, their spiritual core would have been devoured along with their temporary body. In the world of magi, it is said that the old triumphs over the new. Phantasmals of the ancient past reached the gods themselves, and things that endured for eons became mystery itself. And yet, this truth is not an absolute one. There are times when an imitation can defeat the original. When the heroic spirit swung her sword, did she really say that? That this dragon-like thing clearly had combat experience against servants? Yes, it had achieved that impossible feat at least once. The artificial dragon, stretching its long neck out like stretching its long neck and letting out a booming roar, had devoured a heroic spirit once before. She still hadn't fallen. Someone whistled in admiration. It came from the lips of the heroic spirit who shot arrows at a rapid rate. The heroic spirit who hid his face behind a white mask nodded and dissolved into the air, vanishing from sight. The heroic spirit wrapped in the deep blue robe. Medea Fate. Is it blue? Am I crazy? I say that's purple. I say that's purple. I'm sorry. Like, I know what she looks like. It's purple. Well, isn't there literally a picture of her in here? Wait, let's just go up. Okay, what page are we on? We are on page 71. So there's not when she's grabbing her boobers naked. Yeah, that's purple, baby. That's purple. I don't care what anyone says. That's purple. Anyways. The heroic spirit wrapped in a deep purple robe lightly embraced the girl in a dress and floated into the air. A coordinated, simultaneous effort triggered by the whistle from the heroic spirit of the bow. A kind of teamwork that had naturally developed within the labyrinth full of countless traps, from phantasmals to chimeras to deadly spells, an optimal solution devised by 4 heroic spirits. Projectile spells were fired from the air as a distraction. The artificial dragon's eyes were instantly drawn to the spellcaster. It prepared to attack. In an instant, arrows and daggers that seemed to tear through the air pierced the sensory organs on the false dragon's head. She couldn't fall yet. A few precious seconds were brought. Just enough time for the heroic spirit of the sword to raise her golden sword. I'm going to be honest, I hate repeating. Let's go golden blade. Heroic spirit of the sword to raise her golden blade high and bring it crashing down. Noble phantasm. True name release. Excalibur! Light, radiance. The false dragon vanished. There was an illusion of the entire space being filled by that impossible starlight. The truest, mightiest illusion wielded by the king of the holy sword. She watched it enduring the terror of the dragon, the limit of her mind, grinding down her soul, refusing to succumb to the sensation of falling back into her own body. No matter how much the body was her own, she wanted the girl to see this radiance. The false owner of the body, Seijo Manaka. And so, I fell. My consciousness, which was only meant to exist in a tiny corner of my body, I realized that it was there, much higher up in the battle with the false dragon. Terrible, dizzying instability washed over me. I panicked. Let's go. As terrible, dizzying instability washed over me, I panicked. My body was not mine. At that moment, at least, it belonged to Manaka. The 4 heroic spirits at my side recognized me as well. Or rather, they had no recognition of my existence. Dissatisfaction? Me? No, there was no way I could feel that. It was clear that our advancement through to the 3rd floor of the labyrinth thus far did not come from my body's high specs or my superior magic circuits. To Manaka, my existence, let alone my body, was nothing more than a hindrance. I was merely the thing dragging her from being practically omnipotent down to the level of a mere brand, which is crazy because brand is already still pretty good. I knew that. In other words, my body was binding Manaka like a heavy, heavy shackle, and at the end of the 3rd floor, for some reason, those restraints were being released. Released. Just like that. I tried to hold on to the end, but I failed. Defeating the false dragon and descending the stairs to the 4th and final floor, Manaka realized what was about to happen to her temporary physical form. Looked like she'd noticed something, then put on an expression of regret. She gazed toward the 4 servants at her side, as if dazzled. With a sigh, a single phrase. I see how it is. A soliloquy. Were the words meant for me? No, probably not. It wasn't like that. I'm sorry, Saber. I thought I was here to destroy the Holy Grail, but I guess not. I didn't figure it out. Still, yes, this was special in its own way, wasn't it? With a troubled look, to the heroic spirit who took the form of a girl, to the King of Knights who walked the same path as her beloved, she gave a gentle smile. Wait, what? So, it was actually just a ticking clock. That's a shame. Without a trace, she vanished from my body. Without a trace, she vanished from my world. Oh, what the frick? This is crazy. Gone. Completely. I'll probably never understand why. I hadn't studied at the clock tower, and I didn't have any innate omnipotence. Aside from my meager magic circuits, far too modest for me to even call myself a magus, I had nothing but a pair of passive eyes that could never hope to see the world according to the whims of my consciousness like hers. The books my grandfather left me were full of precious knowledge, and may have been useful in these mysterious ruins, but I had dropped them along with the rest of my bag near the entrance to the labyrinth. I couldn't even move my body, so they were useless to me. I couldn't turn a single page even if I had them. So I had no choice but to let myself fall. Gravity. A gravitational pull. My consciousness thought of it in those terms. From some unknown place I was falling, plunging straight into my own body, into an empty body that no longer had Manaka within it. Straight down. Thunk. What's the matter, Master? Manaka? Ah! I let out a strange noise. Saber, having just heard Manaka's final words to her, watched me with concern. I hadn't had my senses in a while. Several days, actually. See, I could be really funny to be like, and this was when I pissed myself. Like, I could slip that in there and no one would know, except I'm telling people. But after the some of the previous scenes, you would just be like, okay. Anyways, fully in control of my body, I took in my surroundings with my own eyes, my own vision. The King of Knights, a girl clad in sky silver armor, stood right beside me. 4 servants were looking at me. Not just Saber, Archer in his green-toned leather armor, Assassin with his white mask, and Castor, who turned to look back at me with a graceful smile on her lips. The 4 of them, unbothered by the garden of death that was the labyrinth, had noticed the change in me. The body that had once been Seijo Manaka's had become entirely my own again. The girl in the green dress was nowhere to be found. I suppose I was still a girl, but the platinum hair and translucent eyes were gone. I was a totally different person. It must have seemed like I had appeared in Manaka's place, with my orange-dyed hair tied back in a ponytail. Oh, it's dyed, it's not natural. A budding specialist who travels to ancient ruins as an explorer, or maybe more of a tomb raider. A magus whose family has worked with the Mages Association for a long time. In association terms, I guess I'd be an external collaborator. My grandfather was an imposing figure, but he used to insist that we were on the same level. I didn't have a shred of talent for magecraft, the Seekers of Mystery did. There was no way I could ever stand heroic spirits of legends who've etched their names into human history. Hey there, little lady. Who are you? Archer tilted his head. A rather peculiar, shape-shifting spell, Assassin remarked with a similar expression. Expression on the... Oh, I guess you could tilt your head with the mask still. She's another person. Even the structure of her magic circuits is different. It's magecraft from the Age of Gods that can even reverse the order of her phases. What does that mean? Modern magi would deem such a feat to be nearly impossible, almost akin to true magic. Its aura didn't feel nearly as grand or dramatic when it was activated, though. Interesting. Well, I guess it would make sense to be like true magic, because one of the true magics is, the kaleidoscope and the alternate dimensions. Cass had already begun to figure out the situation and was making her predictions. And then there was Saber. She showed no sign of confusion, just staring at me with her jade green eyes. Who are you? She spoke to me. A question of identity. A question of who I, frozen in place, not Manaka, really was. I would answer. Yes, I had to answer. I was trying to figure out how exactly I should explain a situation like this to them. I was trying to figure out how exactly I should explain a situation like this to them. Let's say but it was the only thing. No, as it was the only thing running through my mind, right? Because, yeah. That might be a bit weird. That's fine. It's fine. I'll come back for that later. To be honest, I didn't think I had room to think of anything else. I was confused, bewildered. I assumed that the tiny sliver of me clinging on to a far corner of my body was my self-awareness. Yeah. That's a comma splice. We're gonna make that 2 there. I assumed that the tiny sliver of me clinging onto a far corner of my body was my self-awareness. I never imagined for a second that I would fall down from somewhere and drive Manaka out. Where did Manaka go? Was she sent back to the world she belonged to? Her own time? Well, that had to be it. That was what she wanted, so I believed that once the shackle of my body was released, she would head straight back to her beloved. She would retrieve what she left behind in the strange place that felt like it was the center of the world, and return to the Sky Silver, King of Knights, that she loved more than anything, to the other Saber. That should be capitalized, because it's the class. Right, I'd have to explain that too. There was so many things I had to say. I had to stay calm. Even if I couldn't do it as well as Manaka, I had to do it properly. The first thing I said would determine the way these 4 servants would interpret the situation. So if I screwed it up, they'd probably judge my presence as interference or some sort of assassination attempt from a phantasmal... Yeah, that's okay. Because you would say a species. That makes sense. A phantasmal species, a demonic beast, or some other thing that populated the 4th floor. They'd kill me on the spot. I couldn't imagine the full sequence of events that would lead to an outcome like that, but it wouldn't be strange if all 4 of them had abandoned their temporary alliance and killed each other off because of it. Huh? I'm gonna die? Oh, right, that's a possibility. Not just a possibility, it was very likely. I could tell my voice was trembling. So pathetic. If it was Manaka, she would have spoken confident words with her beautiful voice. Fighting back the fear and confusion that threatened to spill from my lips, I tried to speak to the four servants, the embodiment of fantasy and mystery, choosing my words in real time, thinking as I went, desperately. The last time I had to think this hard was when I was in an Egyptian ruin and had to answer questions that an ancient malevolent golem modeled after a sphinx asked me. But then, I managed to escape by remembering something that a certain bespectacled woman, who was a friend of my grandfather's, once said. Now that could be a couple people. That's interesting. But now, it was no use. My mind was totally blank. I was scared. So scared. Hey, kid. Archer's voice pierced my ears. What? Did I do something? Did I screw up somehow to make him talk so harshly? I'm scared. I hate this. I don't want to die. I know I can't really help you guys, but no, I don't want you to hurt me. I don't want to be scared. I don't want to die. Stay away. I managed to say that. That was when I realized the situation I was in. Specifically, that I'd been backing up inch by inch, completely forgetting the warning that Archer and Assassin had just given to the party back when Monaco was still there. There are lots of traps around here, so don't touch them. At that moment, I was reaching out to touch a wall. By the time I could even think of a reaction, it was too late. I had triggered the trap. The sensation of my feet on the cobblestone floor had vanished. I fell helplessly into a large pit that had opened on the floor. As you'd expect from a heroic spirit, from a servant, instantly, Saber and Assassin reached out to me. They'd make it. They'd definitely stop my fall. They had the dynamic vision and the physical ability to do so, no matter what, I'd be pulled up. Let's just go. Yeah. They had the dynamic vision and physical ability to do it, so no matter what, I'd be pulled up. Archer was doing something to prevent other traps from triggering because of this one. Caster was trying to cast a single action spell of levitation aimed toward me at lightning speed, or maybe even faster. With my eyes becoming so accustomed to tracking high-speed movement over the course of the past few days, I could see it all so clearly. But I was at my wit's end. Of these beings who were essentially supernatural weapons, killers beyond human comprehension, I was terrified. Of the conclusion they'd come to in their despair, learning that Monaco was gone, I was horrified. I wanted to escape as quickly as possible. Rather than grabbing the hand offered to me, I frantically kicked the wall. Into the darkness of the pit that opened beneath me. I fell. Alone. I was falling. In the end, I fell down. Fell further down from the 4th floor, which was supposed to be the lowest floor of all? How was that? All I knew was that the distinct feeling that I was drifting further and further from the entrance. As the sensation of falling sent my inside flying upward, a sort of gloom welled up inside me. I knew it. This is what they'd call despair. How many meters had I fallen? I don't want to die. If I could, I would have liked to survive and... if I could. Oh, I see what it's... Okay, not if I didn't want... Okay, you're right. I would have liked to survive and escape the labyrinth. I wanted to take a hot shower, dry my hair as I got out, curl up in a soft blanket in a warm bed. I wanted to go to my favorite cafe, order their cake of the day, and spend the afternoon relaxing on their sunny terrace. I hadn't even finished reading the books that my grandfather left me. I wanted to meet someone great and build a family like my grandparents did. I didn't want to end up in a failed marriage like my father, who was driven by some strange ambition. Yeah, that's a mage, all right. I wanted to love my children properly, so no, I couldn't die. I didn't care if I couldn't leave my name behind as some great modern explorer. God, please. I'm sorry I dropped out of Sunday school. If I make it out of here alive, I promise I'll go to church every weekend if I can. Please, don't kill me yet. No! A wail burst forth from my throat. As it left my body, something struck my back. A massive impact. I thought my body would be torn to pieces, but the damage wasn't that severe. Maybe it wasn't that far of a fall after all. The relief was short-lived. The light I saw above me, the remains of light made with magecraft that we'd used as a substitute for lanterns, which were in Saber and Archer's hands, were extinguished. With a thud and a thunk, the trapdoor shut itself. Heavy stone blocks filled the hole, a mechanism set in place with magecraft. Automatic opening and closing. If it were Manaka, she never would have fallen in the hole, and she would have been able to escape before the floor closed in over it if she did. But I couldn't do that. In fact, it was only natural since I fell in on my own. Would Saber and the others come after me? No. It wasn't impossible, but would they really go through the trouble of digging through to the ground to reach someone like me? Maybe Castor had a spell that could dig a tunnel, but traps like these usually had particularly harsh countermeasures. If this were some ordinary ruin left behind by an ordinary magus, well, that'd be one thing. But this was the labyrinth of the legendary magus Kalbic Alcatraz, whose name is only spoken in hushed tones. Even Castor's formidable magecraft would struggle to deal with it. Should I be relieved? Or should I regret how foolish I was? Unable to decide, I rolled onward. Yes, not quite falling. I was rolling now. The bottom of the pit led into a steep slope, which my body now tumbled down. My head was spinning, round and round, round and round. I had no way to stop myself, so all I could do was shield my head with my arms. Down and down, tumbling and tumbling. Just when I lost track of how long I'd been rolling, I came to a stop. Ow! A dim light flooded my vision. I'd arrived in a space like a natural cave. Its atmosphere, again, that's a comma splice. Fix that. Its atmosphere was a lot different from any of the floors of the labyrinth thus far. For a fleeting moment, I tried to cling to the hope that it was over. Those hopes were cruelly crushed. It was impossible to delude myself into thinking I'd escaped from the labyrinth and emerged into some cave, some pure external world free of dangerous phantasmals and chimeras. Light, a faint glow. I realized that it wasn't the kind of light created by luminescent moss reflecting rays of light from the cave entrance. It was a light source created by magecraft. The floor, the walls, the ceiling, all of it was crystallized, glimmering with magical energy. It was a realm of mystery that certainly couldn't exist in the natural world governed by the laws of physics. I'm still in the labyrinth. The words slid right down my throat. I think, would it be up? Up? Wait, because it says right my throat, right? I think it's meant to be, let's go. Because I don't know, maybe it's just me. I feel like it goes up your throat, over your tongue, and left the lips. Yeah, right there. Right? You wouldn't say down your throat. The words slid up my throat, over my tongue, and left my lips. My voice. Right. Not Manaka's. Only then did I truly realize it, that Manaka was entirely gone from my body. That I had parted ways with those resilient, heroic spirits. I'm alone. Would the forest servants find me? I couldn't say. I thought they might search for Manaka, but that was as far as they'd go. My situation surely wouldn't change from how it was just because I fell into this pit. Even if by some miracle they did find me, how would they treat me now that I wasn't Manaka? I wasn't a master worthy of the King of Knights, I can say that much. I was well aware of that. Just thinking about it. Fear, and confusion, and anxiety all welled up back within me. No, not like this. No matter what, I wasn't cut out to travel alongside heroes from mythology and legend. I didn't have Manaka's talent or judgment. Even if I did have some amount of specialized knowledge, I lost the equipment I need to put them to use. Equipment? The words slipped from my lips. Rubbing my libs? The liberals? No, I think it's limbs, yeah. Rubbing my limbs that hurt from the fall as I tried to get up, it hit me. Feeling the familiar weight on my waist belt, I'd remember what I said. A lie. No way. But I left it all at the entrance. A full set of gear. Its distinct presence at the base of my back and around my waist. Oh. I touched it with my hand, checked it with my eyes, realizing that my trusty exploration backpack was right there with me. Oh, well, that couldn't be right. I'd lost all my gear. That was why I was frozen in despair, unable to move forward or backward in the center of a passageway of the dark labyrinth. Looking at the command spell emerging from the back of my hand, the knowledge that flowed from it revealed the existence of the subspecies Holy Grail and the beginning of the subspecies Holy Grail War. I was dumbfounded, watching Saber materialize right before my eyes, and then, Manaka, you descended into my body. Manaka. As I spoke her name, a thought came to me. Did you give it back? It was baseless, a hunch that popped into the back of my mind. I felt tears welling up in my eyes. The loneliness and vulnerability, the sadness of parting, and then a faint idea and speculation of a miracle. Being struck by the reality that I was in a life or death situation probably also played a part. I couldn't stop my vision from blurring. After all of that, I never even told you my name. Period. You and I never exchanged a single word, comma, and I never did anything to help you. My imperfect mortal body was nothing more than a burden for you. I don't know what would bring you to do this for me, or if it's even true that you did. To you, this probably wasn't even special, but still. I pressed my hand to my mouth, holding back the sobs that tried to force their way out. Fighting the urge to break down in tears, I focused on the weight pressing down on my hips. Even if I was powerless, even if I was just an ordinary person, I would do everything I could. Even if I didn't know why my gear was in my hands, I wasn't at zero. I'll do my best. Even then, even though there was no one around, the words slipped out. I nodded to myself, then looked around again. First, observation, assessing the situation. Doing that, things jumped into my field of view. 1, 2. Do my best. How wonderful. I think so too. How nice. Nice. A human. I like it. Do my best. Us. Human doing its best. Like it. Like it. Like it. A human here. Been so long. Is it lost? Poor thing. Poor thing. Doing its best. Poor thing. 1, 2. 1, no. 2, no. So many tiny, tiny figures. Enveloped in a faint glow of magical energy, creatures with translucent wings like insects emerged from the darkness of the cave. Several of them, a swarm. What were they? What are we doing? Why do they look like adorable little girls? They understood language? It sounded like the English that I was used to. They swarmed around me as I stood frozen in shock, my mouth agape. Their wings seemed to have a faint glow. It was the same. The crystalline cave around me had the same pale blue glow. Were they some kind of phantasmal species that inhabited this realm? If so, was the cave not part of the labyrinth, but actually a natural formation hidden from the rest of the world? But phantasmals that spoke English. The Sphinx used a form of mental communication rather than spoken language. For example, the King of Knights was a hero from around the 5th century, so surely she must have spoken Briton, the language in Britain at the time. Is that true? I'm just curious. I'm Googling this. What language did King Arthur speak? I've never heard of Briton before. Oh, well, that's a cooler word. Instead of Briton, we call it Brittonic. Yeah, that's cooler. Arthurian Britain was before the Germanic invaders came and made the place England, which meant Angleland. Oh. It would have been Brittonic, which was a Celtic language. Oh. Okay, that's interesting. Yeah, okay, everyone, I'm seeing, like, Briton is like the shorthand of it, but Brittonic is a cooler word, so I'm using that. The Holy Grail was a kind of medium that granted her the appropriate linguistic abilities when she was summoned as a heroic spirit. As for her actual self who existed long ago, she surely would have spoken... I'm gonna change it. Brittonic, Celtic, because again, we don't know, or some language close to those. Because I mean, we're gonna add a bit of detail, right? Right? She surely. I mean, no, we'll just use it twice. That's just the other spelling, right? Yeah. Well, no, because it is a type of Celtic, but it's okay. I'm editorializing a bit, which is what I like to do. Would the same be true of phantasmals? I couldn't say for certain. Again, comma splice. The comma splice thing is again, it's like in the original text, that's how it's written, but as English goes, we don't like to do that, right? I couldn't say, we could do this, or, as I didn't know as much as my grandfather, right? Either way, that's okay, right? That's more accurate, probably. If they had linguistic capabilities, then it was entirely possible they'd adapt their speech patterns depending on the audience. Oh, I could still hear them. You okay? Don't be scared. Don't worry. He offered kind words. Their gender wasn't clear. Their eyes seemed to consist solely of pupils that were, larger than a human's. Okay. Their smooth limbs brought the figure of a human girl to mind. Their soft-looking hair swayed even without a breeze. Their appearance, their voices, their words. Oh, I see what they are. They were all gentle, serene. I let my guard down. Fairies. I let the word rest on the tip of my tongue. The kind of fairies that appeared in children's books or popular animated movies. Even though I'd known what real fairies looked like since I was a kid. Oh. Beautiful fairies. Without realizing it, I reached out to the imitations. I gestured to the creatures that whispered to me with smiles, beckoning them to come closer. No, that was wrong. It was nothing like the real ones I saw in the remote corner of Ireland with my grandfather. Right. It was nothing like the real ones I saw in the remote corner of Ireland with my grandfather. This was not an untamed wilderness where demonic beasts and phantasmals lurked. It was part of a labyrinth, and these beings calling out to me weren't even phantasmals. At the moment, I must have fallen under their spell. My judgment was clouded because they had come with a certain distance. Even if my reason and knowledge were crying out to me, it was already too late to stop it. With an enraptured look on my face, I reached my hand out to them and said, "Okay, help yourself." To tell them of my own accord that they could devour me. The bespectacled woman who was once my grandfather's most valuable client once told me that if I ever see the kind of fairy in the form of a girl you see in stories, it was a lie 9 times out of 10. Fake. Okay, so is this Toko? That's the only one I could think about, right? Because the only bespectacled woman would be like CL, but I don't think it's going to be CL, right? Because she wouldn't be working with the mages too much, but if we're doing mages, right, I'm assuming it must be Toko. Boy, she's in a lot of stuff, right? In fact, I should have seen it as a familiar created by a magus. The ones swarming around my body were no different. They were nothing like the beings I'd encountered earlier in the labyrinth. They were most likely chimeras. It was more than just eerie. They probably recognized that I, their prey, had become completely helpless, so they opened their vertical jaws. Wait, they got the horrible vertical mouths? I hate those. Right? They probably recognized that I, their prey, had become completely helpless, so they opened their vertical jaws wide, and their entire heads became mouths full of fangs. Oh god, they're horrible. Are we going to see it in the picture? The fake fairies lunged at me. I couldn't make a sound. Bound by some spell, I tried to surge in defiance. My stance looked like I was reaching out, so if anyone saw me, they would surely think I was some kind of fool. Here on the deepest floor of a labyrinth that was legendary even within the world of magi, or at least some parts of it. Could there really be a fool who could conquer the first 3 floors and still lose her life so easily? Yeah. Oh! Horrible! Horrid creatures! Good God! Yeah! Yeah, that's bad. Wow! Wow, 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 wow. I hate them. Oh, that's bad. I was a fool. Unable to move, my eyes cried out in terror. Help me. By the time my wails echoed through the cave, I would probably already be half devoured by the fairy-like creatures. Tasty, 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 tasty. You look tasty. Clumsy English echoed outward. I sensed the excruciating pain of my skin being torn through my clothes and my flesh being ripped apart. I shut my eyes, the only part of me that was still free, to at least block out the visual information of it. But 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds had passed and I still didn't feel the pain. Slowly, timidly, I opened my eyes. What appeared in my vision, still blurry with tears, was not a monstrous beast. Neither black nor white. It was gray. Okay, well, we know who this is because it was spoiled in the, opening there. My one question is, do they spell her name in FGO with an A or an E? In FGO, her name is spelled with an A. Perfect. Double checking that, right? Because that's something. Like, the fact that both of these are correct drives me insane. But yeah, so her name goes with an A. Okay. Yeah, I'm looking here. They never do with an E. Good. Okay. I wasn't dead. I was alive. Oh yeah, well, I can see your picture down there. I was alive, looking at the person who had saved me from my desperate situation. A girl holding a strangely shaped weapon with one hand, one that looked like a kind of bizarre spear, or maybe a large scythe like the one the Grim Reaper carries in Baroque paintings. She really was gray. This probably felt particularly strong because of the hue of the hood that covered her face. Even though the cloak she wore was black, for some reason, she gave off the impression of, I'm going to say, the color gray, right? I couldn't make out her face. With the shadow of the hood cast over it. Yeah, that doesn't even need a comma there. I could just make out her mouth, and a sense of relief welled up inside of me when I looked at it. Thank you. She saved me. Oh, this is fun because this is almost like a "Are you my master" sort of pose. Kind of, right? A little bit. I do know that Gray apparently wears a different outfit in every single El Malloy novel, which is fun. I like that, right? I mean, they're like minor variations, but it's still a cool idea. God, Gray's cool. Can't wait to actually read and learn about her eventually. We'll get there later, right? All the El Malloy stuff will be after, like, strange fake. Protected me as a... Okay, so wait. She saved me. That's just because we got the break there, right? She protected me as I was heading towards certain death. I was slightly mistaken at the time, but that fact was what brought me relief. I moved my lips, which were finally free. My throat moved too. My voice, my words finally flowed out freely. I surveyed my surroundings, and sitting flat on the ground. It seemed like I'd fallen over again without realizing it. The pain I felt all over my body wasn't just from the fall and its preceding tumbling. Had I also been overwhelmed by the swarm's onslaught? Wait, what? This is a weird sentence. The pain I felt wasn't just from the fall and the preceding tumbling. I think it's supposed to be I had also been overwhelmed by the swarm's onslaught, landing on my butt after freezing in place. Okay, sure. Every single one of the false fairies had stopped moving. She must have struck them down with that weapon of hers. That much was obvious just by looking at the cross-section of the wreckage that scattered below me. If they were monsters deployed to attack intruders who'd reached the last floor, they surely would have been equipped with some sort of protection, and yet she managed to dispose of them in the short span that my eyes were closed. Short span, let's go up time. Yeah. A powerful mystic code? No. Looking at the weapon made me consider another possibility. The mystic code artifacts wielded by Magi were certainly powerful, and it was true that the strongest of them could, to use a modern military analog, inflict destruction on the same scale as a missile. But yeah, we'll go because it's like, again, I'm just reading the sentence to make it sound better. The mystic code artifacts wielded by Magi were certainly powerful, and it was true that the strongest of them could, to use a modern military analog, inflict destruction on the same scale as a missile, but my eyes told me that this was something far beyond that. I couldn't tell for certain if something was concealing it, but there was one thing that I was certain of. If I saw it, I certainly couldn't have said this. If I saw her. Okay, so we'll go. If I saw it before entering the labyrinth, I certainly couldn't have said this so definitively. It was my experience in seeing them. Okay, I see. In seeing them in their true form as we crossed the first through third floors that led me to the conclusion. It was surely a noble phantasm. An embodiment of the legends that define a heroic spirit, the pinnacle of fantasy. A noble phantasm which sat at a height that modern magecraft couldn't hope to attain. So she must have been surely... This Ashton girl was surely... You're... Lancer, aren't you? A heroic spirit. I'd never heard of a modern human who could wield a noble phantasm. I'd heard that there were only 4 servants here. As Saber and the others had definitely said as much. I'd believed them until this very moment. I didn't think Saber or the rest were lying. It was just that it would hardly be a surprise if the subspecies Holy Grail had summoned an additional servant for one reason or another. Even someone like me had heard a bit about the variant Holy Grail. Modeled after the Greater Grail that once existed in the far eastern city, I'm just going to say, of Fuyuki. It was a wish-granting device, though not an omnipotent one like its predecessor. The Fuyuki Holy Grail carried out a Holy Grail war with up to 7 heroic spirits, but a subspecies Holy Grail was said to allow a maximum of 5 to materialize. Well, a maximum of 5. In that case, the numbers made sense. Saber, Archer, Assassin, Caster, plus Lancer. What makes you say that? Does this look like a spear? So... No? The girl tilted her head ambiguously. I couldn't tell if it was a nod or denial. If it wasn't a spear, was it just treated as one because it wasn't a sword or bow? This was the most freaking... This is the most Fate thing ever. Just them going like, I guess it counts close enough, you know? I'd never heard of a Reaper class that used a scythe. Give FGO 2 years. I never imagined that a human could reach the... Or, at that point, I realized I'd completely misjudged the situation. I never imagined that a human could reach the final floor of the labyrinth on her own. So, I wondered if I should keep the fact that I, or rather my body under Manaka's control, was Saber's master from the girl, who was most likely a servant. Right, I didn't even know how a 5th heroic spirit would view Saber. I wonder if they actually meet in this. That'd be crazy. I don't think they will for reasons that I know. I don't care, Windows Update. Go away. Even if my command spells had vanished, I couldn't let her reach the logical conclusion that I was a master who should be eliminated. Even without proper evidence, that was the judgment I'd made. I thought about what I should say. I thought about what I could say. A name. I spoke the name that I was never able to tell Manaka. My name is Norma. Norma Goodfellow. A name that defined me. A name given to me by my beloved grandfather. A name that was precious to me. I felt an odd sensation. In a body that wasn't mine until a short while ago, I was stating the name that it was originally meant to bear. Not to Manaka, not to Saber, but to some girl I just met. A girl, like those two, who, like those two, had just saved my life. I came here on a request from the Mages Association, so my goal is aligned with yours. You think so? Yes. I don't think it's much different from yours. The girl nodded. I felt a vast gap between myself, a mere human, and her, a heroic spirit, but I decided not to point it out. It wasn't hard to imagine that if I spoke too much, my usual carelessness would cause me to blurt out things that I needed to keep hidden. Besides, I couldn't interject. I was too busy sorting through the auditory information that reached me and hammering it into my brain so I didn't miss any of it. Surprisingly enough, somehow, though, our destination and goals should be similar. The fifth heroic spirit told me her background without hesitation. She spoke concisely, but there was a sense that the order of things was a bit jumbled, so I couldn't quite grasp the meaning of it all just by listening, but I think I understood the gist. Probably. I hope. According to her, she was part of the Mage Association. According to her, her goal was to investigate and escape the Labyrinth. According to her, she hadn't originally intended to venture this deep alone. You mean you didn't mean to go alone? You didn't mean to go alone? I found myself repeating the words back to her. Yes, She seemed hesitant, as if struggling to find the right words. Through the shadow of her hood, the girl's eyes looked upward, toward the upper levels, or maybe... I need to hurry back to the professor. You have a teacher? Yes. Did that mean she wanted to return to the Throne of Heroes? If so, she may have wanted to destroy the subspecies Holy Grail just like Saber. I wasn't entirely sure about her affiliation with the Mage Association, though. She didn't mention having a master, so the likelihood that she had a direct connection to a Magus was slim. But she was acting on the association's orders for some reason. Did she come into contact with a Magus who infiltrated the Labyrinth? The professor is waiting, so... Saying so, the girl with the scythe reached out her hand. For a split second, I couldn't help thinking about it. I thought of the exact moment after I'd fallen into the pit. The hands that Saber and Assassin had extended out toward me. I thought of myself, how stupid I was when I reached out to the man-eating fairy after falling into a trap. Was I making a fatal mistake? Should I have reached out back then? For the latter, no, I shouldn't have. For the former, I couldn't say for certain. I don't know if my anxious, confused words would ever be convincing enough. So now, which one was the right choice? Thank you, Lancer. No, you saved me. I have to thank you properly. I stood up, taking the girl's hand. In this labyrinth where death awaited around every corner, I wanted to move in the right direction if possible. So I'm sorry, proud king of knights, Saber, sharp-eyed bowman, Archer, angelic man, Assassin. Okay, I get what they're going with the idea of angel of death and, like, Ezreal, right? But no, I wouldn't use that, but okay. Graceful sorceress, caster. I want to live, me when I get a foot job at Applebee's. For now, I wanted to live the life that my grandfather, mother, and father gave to me. I'm gonna go period there. I want to live as Norma. I don't want to die like this. I recalled what happened near the entrance to the labyrinth where death came so easily. Thinking of it now, it felt as though it was only a moment ago. That was how vivid and unforgettable the shock of it was. Even in ruins that were not this labyrinth, similar things had happened many times. Each time I'd either run away or wept. The first floor, right near the entrance which the outside world waited beyond. Hired by the Mage Association, I braved the seventh labyrinth of Alcatraz. Of course, I wasn't alone. I had people with me, fellow explorers, far more experienced than me who, to put it bluntly, would, I would say, who, to put it bluntly, was more like, I think it's because you want to be singular, right? She's describing herself, right? Fellow explorers who had far more experience than me who, to put it bluntly, was more like a looter who used magecraft not as a tool to explore the world's mystery, but not as a tool to explore the world's mystery, but as a tool to collect artifacts hidden in remote, forbidden corners of the world. We call ourselves explorers. Okay, well, no, she's talking about her type of people. Okay, I see. I see what it's going for. Oop. Yeah. We called ourselves explorers to distinguish ourselves from the looters of the outside world, but there was little real difference between us in reality. I couldn't exactly say that they were inhabitants of the world of magecraft, but I couldn't call them inhabitants of the ordinary world either. As contractors for the association, we often collected valuable items that could serve as catalysts. In fact, my family had made a living doing so for generations. I'm pretty sure that we've been doing it for a very long time, maybe even up to 10 generations back. My grandfather, in particular, seemed to be associated with many people within the association who were a bit off the beaten path at best. The person who sent me to Labyrinth was an association official who was once an acquaintance of my grandfather's. Of course, I didn't really want to do it. I was afraid of the Labyrinth that I'd heard rumors about. But somewhere deep down, I wanted to be like my grandfather. And besides, I'd heard that this expedition would be a survey team made up of several explorers, including some fairly well-known figures. So in that case, maybe I could play a part and achieve something great with them. That's what I thought. I'll let my ambitions get the better of me. And then, I was the only one who survived. As we made our way through the dimly lit cave, I murmured to the girl with the scythe walking beside me. I could tell that she was nodding, so I figured she must be listening even if she didn't reply. I wonder if it was some kind of demonic beast. A snake so big it filled the whole wall. A snake so big that it filled the whole hallway showed up. It swallowed the person in front of me, then coiled itself around the others in one move. And then, I heard that awful noise. The sound of every bone in their bodies breaking as they were coiled tighter and tighter. A famous explorer, an older man, cast some kind of offensive spell. I think it was... Again, Com's place. I think it was fire or something. I'm going to say... It was fire-based or something. But its scales were hard as iron, so they simply deflected the heat. Looking back now, it made perfect sense. The demonic beasts were there to fight the heroic spirits summoned by the subspecies Holy Grail. There was no way that they'd be defeated by a strike from an ordinary magus, let alone one from the association. The stun... would it be the other way around? Right? Because I'd say the association would probably be the stronger one, right? From a... So, right, we'd probably want this to be from an association magus, right? There's no way they'd be defeated by a strike from an association magus, let alone an ordinary one, right? That just makes sense there, because you usually do the second one is the lesser one. The stunned old man was swallowed whole. Before I knew it, I was the only one left. In a daze, I cast every spell I had, running on and on with no idea which way was up or down. Not even realizing that I dropped all my gears, I raced through the darkness. How long had it been since then? Standing alone in the corridor dazed, I felt a sharp pain in my right hand. Your right hand? Oh, no, it's nothing. I must have hit it on something when I was running. A sharp pain shot through my chest. Pain, guilt, self-loathing for lying to the girl. The pain in my right hand was caused by the appearance of the command spell, so I shouldn't have mentioned it. I'd almost let it slip because I was speaking so sporadically. No, even while explaining the rest, I had to hide the truth about Saber. If there are things you want to hide, don't cover them up with lies. Try to cover them with the truth. My grandfather once told me that, but I hadn't been able to do it. The more I spoke, the more cracks showed. I'm not very skilled at magecraft, but I do have some experience with first aid. No, I can handle simple healing, it's fine now. Assuming that I had the mystic code that was in my gear anyway. Until just a moment ago, I was incapable of doing anything. But now there was a familiar weight on my hips. As long as I had this bag Manaka sent me, even someone as helpless and incompetent as me could accomplish something. Not the supernatural feats beyond human understanding that heroic spirits could perform, but something. However small. For example, I stopped the girl with the scythe and set up a scale-shaped mystic code on the ground. I poured rock salt, refined with magical energy, onto one pan on the side. Even though there was nothing on the other pan, the scale didn't lose its balance. Scale, 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 scale. Show me. Show me. Show me. I repeated the phrase on and on, weaving it into a spell. It took quite a while. It didn't sound very good either. I was only a magecraft user. I was only a magecraft user. That's a period there. I was only a magecraft user. A real magus would probably say that my incantation lacked any beauty. I would agree. It wasn't very cool, and repeating the same words for almost a minute was exhausting, even if I was allowed to take a breath in between. But it brought results. Foundation barely etched into the world activated through my magic circuits. The spell took shape. With a gentle exhale, the rock salt blown from the scale... it literally blows. Okay. Let's with a gentle I see. With a gentle exhale, and then she blows it. I see. With a gentle exhale, the rock salt blown from the scale glowed blue, serving as a beacon that would guide me safely along the path. The winding, twisting trail was now outlined in blue. Sure enough, there were traps set. I didn't know how effective it would have been, but probably would have been it was probably deadly. Trap detection success. It wasn't nearly as smooth as Assassin, nor was it instant like it would have been for him. By combining Magecraft this way, I could just barely manage it. A top-tier Magus could probably keep a danger-detecting Mystic Code active at all times, or use an enhanced vision spell to take in everything around them. For me, this was all I could manage, even with my equipment. But compared to when I was unable to do anything, compared to absolute zero, it was something. If we just walk along the blue line, we'll be okay. Follow me. An exploration spell? Yeah. Nodding to her, I added. Nothing compared to what a proper magus could do, but once I think there might be a trap, I can use this to handle it. As long as it's visible, we can evade as we go. Sorry. I really wish I could disarm the traps, but I'm not confident enough. If we can't move forward without disarming them, I'll try my best, but as long as we can get by just avoiding them, I don't mind. But she seemed hesitant. But you sense that there could be a trap with intuition? A questioning look. Oh, that. It was a trait of mine, or maybe a characteristic. It wasn't honed to the point where I could call it a real strength, so I don't usually mention it, but I don't need to hide it, I suppose. My eyes. The ones that my grandfather told me were glam sight, fairy eyes. The world of magecraft, the world of magi. Even in the realm of mystery and fantasy, mystic eyes were something special. But I didn't think that mine were particularly valuable. It was just that their focus was slightly out of alignment from normal vision. It was simply a matter of vaguely sensing the presence of magical energy, enough to catch glimpses of phantasmal species that strayed from the phylogenetic tree deep in some remote wilderness, even if they hadn't taken distinct forms. I certainly couldn't influence their species or identify their species or any particular details about them, nor do I have the power to influence what I saw. I've been told it was similar to what they call pure vision in the East. Still, they were nowhere near as good as the real thing. Who is pure vision? Okay, let me see here. What is? Who has the same spell then? Let's go Fate, Pure Vision. Pure Eyes. Let me see here. Let me go Pure Eyes. Here we go. Pure Eyes, Eyes of Purity, are the psychic ability which they can normally not see. Oh. Oh, Kiri Nanaya. Oh, interesting. I don't think I ever picked that up from... Or I probably just forgot that there. I do like the one line here. The Nanaya were able to consistently acquire pure eyes by having incestuous relationships. Yep. That's that. Arquid's gold eyes. That's another one there. Okay. Blue pure eyes. So there's different ones there. Okay. Okay. Okay, so that's a Tsukihime thing. I mean, pure vision, because it's Jogan or eyes of purity. So let's go with, yeah, they're called pure eyes. Right? So we'll go or eyes of purity. We'll make sure that both definitions are there. Still, they were nowhere near as good as the real thing. The experience and intuition that seasoned explorers had were far more useful. In my case, I just used these eyes to make up for my lack of natural experience. It's not that special. Even if it's called glam sight, it's not actually like that. Sometimes when I walk near graves, I see a faint glimpse of a ghost and get scared, though. A ghost? A shadow of unease crept into her voice. Had I said something over the line again? Should I apologize? Come to think of it, this girl who seemed to be Lancer. Hey, Lancer, shouldn't you have a class skill that'd come in handy for navigating ruins? How else did you reach the last floor? I only tagged along. Huh? It was clear she made no attempt to hide anything when she answered, but I still didn't really get it. I couldn't help but tilt my head in confusion. If this were a children's cartoon, a question mark would have probably been floating over my head. Then a voice spoke. I know who this is. I was waiting for him to speak. Not the girl's voice, and obviously not my own. It came from the base of her weapon, which seemed to lack any sense of weight. The large scythe that she carried. Hey now, you better give that a proper answer. You're not telling her enough. If someone interprets this as you being good at finding traps or something, you'll be dead in no time. Here's the deal. Norma, was it? We've just been slowly falling behind you guys. Trailing just one lap behind on the route you made after clearing all the traps and monsters. Just close enough that you wouldn't spot us. I see. Well, that did make sense. Wait a second. A man's voice. Huh? It definitely wasn't her voice. It was the voice of a man with a mischievous tone. Not knowing what was going on or who the owner of this voice was, I must have been visibly flustered. She was watching me with a troubled expression. Boy, that was a hassle, I'll tell ya. The mysterious voice went on. Apparently they had been making steady progress up to the 4th floor. They ended up falling into some kind of trap sliding all the way down here. Really screwed up that one. Anyway, you haven't even told this girl your name, huh? Have you, Gray? Gray? Huh? A name? Apologies. I'm late in introducing myself. My name is... And then the Ashen Girl announced it. A name that matched the impression that I had of her the moment we met. A heroic spirit's true name? But I couldn't think of any scythe-wielding hero with that name. And that's doubled up just because we have extra stuff. There we go. Okay, well. Man, there we go. We met up with Gray, and we fought fairies, all that good stuff. God, she's cool. And it's funny, though, because, like, now she is a servant, but she's not a Lancer, right? All right, guys, we'll be moving on with, we're on page 93 of 152. So we're, my eyes are broken. My eyes are broken. Help. Help. There we go. Okay. I don't know why I was doing that. Anyways, yeah, we'll be continuing on with some more next time as we, head into Act 5. Where we're coming up on, you know, we're kind of crescendoing on the story. So I will see you guys next time for some more Fate Labyrinth. We'll see you then. Ciao. Yo.